Hello! Since we've been home a month ago from bringing our daughter home from Thailand, we've had many questions and people reaching out on asking us where to get started on adoption. They've thought about adoption, maybe just one of the spouses has thought about it. Where can they get more information? So we're going to do videos informing you all where to look, where to research so you can figure out if adoption is right for you and how to get started. We've done 2 adoptions, foster care and international, and this video is just going to be about foster care. The next video we're going to put up is on international adoption, and we'll put it in the suggested bar above once it's posted. I'll also put everything down in the description bar that I talk about. I have a few disclaimers before we get into the depth of adoption and my advice for you. I am not an expert. I am not a professional. I am coming from a mother standpoint, a family standpoint, a marriage standpoint. And so when you're watching these, please know that there is a lot of professionals out there that can help you. And I'm going to talk about where to find those professionals and who to talk to and what to ask. So that's just a disclaimer. I'm not claiming to know everything. I'm talking from a mother's standpoint who's been through 2 processes, foster and international. Like I said, we've been through 2 adoptions, one through foster care and one through international adoption. And they are 2 very, very different processes. Each of them have different strengths and different weaknesses, positives and negatives. And so our son was foster care, and this was a few years ago. We started the process 4 years ago for getting licensed to foster a child. Adopting through foster care sounds like the easiest route at first. You don't have to pay very much. You get paid in some instances every month. If you're fostering, some families just want to foster to adopt, some just want to foster and give kids a loving home until they get reunified with their family. Foster care can be very emotional. It's very straining on a family. It's very hard. It's hard on you, it's hard on the kids, because any adoption is just a big change. And foster care specifically, there's a lot of things that go into it and a lot of processes once you get started. The first thing you need to do is talk to your spouse. Many of our friends or many people we know or in our community want to adopt. They just don't know if their spouse is ready or if their spouse is on board. And it needs to be both of you, especially when you're bringing home a kid who's been through a lot of negative situations. That child deserves to have 2 parents that are 100% on board. So this needs to be something that you talk to your spouse about, your family members about, and figure out if it's something all of you are committed to. And if so, then you can begin to move forward. But that needs to be conversation, prayer, time to really sit and think about the facts and where your family is. Mark and I knew we wanted to build a family. We just didn't know how. We hadn't tried to have biological yet. And so we decided that we needed to adopt, and foster care was the way to go. Both of us were 100% on board. So once we agreed on what we both think was right, was to foster to adopt a child and bring them into our home and hopefully adopt them one day, the next step that we took is to research agencies. Every area is different. Every area has different agencies, and those agencies are different. And so we went online and researched different agencies, looked up just foster to adopt agencies in our area, and we researched online. Online you can see their mission, their vision, what they want. You can look up stories from the past, what they focus on. Some agencies focus on special needs. Some agencies focus on older kids. Some agencies focus on sibling groups. And so you want to figure out what you're looking for and figure out what your personality best fits with those agencies. Once we narrowed ours down, we called and made appointments. That's what I would recommend doing. Once you research online, you need to call and make appointments to sit down and talk to people face to face. One of the great things about foster care is you get one-on-one, face-to-face attention from social workers, people in the family protective services, things like that. They're going to be around you a lot. You're going to see them face to face. And so that's one of the things that with international you don't really get. Mark and I called the agency that we felt the most comfortable with and decided to meet with them. When you go, I had a list of questions on my phone just talking about the process, what it takes, what information they had, because we didn't know many people who had gone through this process yet, and we couldn't, that was really our only avenue to find information from is them. So we went physically, we sat down with them, and we asked away. When you are bringing a child home, you want someone who's willing to answer the questions. So if they're not able to answer your questions or they don't want to spend that time, I would say that's a big red flag of an agency maybe you shouldn't be working with. So we went through all of our questions. There were a lot, and they answered all of them with grace and dignity and honesty. And so we felt very comfortable with that. We went home, prayed, we talked to our family a little bit more, and then we decided to get licensed. One of the questions I would ask when you were there talking to them in person is for references. You can come up 3, 5, 10, it doesn't matter, whatever you think you want to talk to, and call those families and ask. Every agency is going to have good things and every agency is going to have bad things. There's no perfect agency. And so you want to find out if the negatives are things that you can deal with, things that are okay with you, and find the positives that you think are most important for an agency. And so I would ask for references for all those agencies. You can call those references and talk to them, meet with them, ask questions. There's a lot of blogs online about different agencies that you can look at that families use, but get down and dirty and really into the details of what happened. How did their kids react? How hard was it for you? How easy was it to get a hold of that agency? Did they answer your questions? Was it what they made it sound like at the beginning? How was the training? Did you feel prepared? Did you feel supported? And so those are questions that you want to ask. I would just also ask their story. Most adoption families are very proud of their story. They're proud of their kids, and so they want to tell you their story. Their story will reflect a lot of the agency. And so you want a supportive agency that's positive and brings the best for those kids. Once you start the process of getting trained, once you decide on an agency, you and your spouse need to come up with standards. And when I say this, it may sound selfish, but I'll explain it in full and it'll make full sense at the end. When you are bringing home a kid, you want to know what age range. You want to know gender if you care. You want to know the race of the child. You want to know if you're willing to take emergency placements or if you only want kids that are 100% signed, rights are signed over, it's done, you just have to do your 6 months or depending on whatever standard it is in your state to adopt. You and your spouse need to sit down and come up with those standards. I would even put them on paper. And this is before you are licensed, before everything starts going, because you want to know what is best for your family. Sit down and look. Do you already have kids? Is there an age range that would fit best with your kids? Are there certain genders that would fit best for your kids? You need to talk and look at your family and figure out what is best. When you start getting calls for foster kids and they start saying, oh, there's a child who has been abused, is 8 years old, and needs a home. Well, if you knew that an older kid wouldn't fit with your family, but you hear this emotional story and you take that kid in and you give them a home, and then you figure out a few months later this isn't a good fit and that kid has to go somewhere else, that's one more transition that kid had to go through, one more loss that kid had to go through. And so if you stick with your standards and you know your standards ahead of time, that saves the children from going to a home that isn't right for them. So don't think of it as selfish. Think of it as you protecting the kids and bringing home a situation that you know you're not ready for. Mark and I knew we wanted a younger child. We knew we wanted a child that would probably need to be adopted. And so we didn't take emergency placements. A lot of our friends we have take emergency placements, and that's their strength, and they are strong and they love those kids with all their heart. Some of them end up at adoption, a lot of them don't, but they're okay with that. They want to love that child. That is not what we want for our family right now. I'm not sure what we'll want in the future when it comes to foster care, but a few years ago, we knew we wanted to adopt. And so saying no to a kid, you feel guilty, but I promise you, there is a family that's right for that child. And if you're not that family, you have to be willing to put your pride aside and say, these are my standards, this is what me and my spouse decided on, it doesn't fit in what we think is best for our family, so it wouldn't be best for the child. Those decisions are what's best for the children. Mark and I were licensed in May or June of that year, and we did not get a placement until December. We said yes to many kids, and we went into the pool of families, and they chose different families. We said no to many kids because we knew we couldn't take sibling groups. We were brand new parents. We've never even had a kid. So we felt like going to a younger one kid was best for us at this moment in our life, at that moment. And so that was our standard, and we wanted to stick to it. We also knew that there were amazing families out there that were licensed waiting for kids. And so we had hope and faith that everything was going to work out. Now, foster care is not easy. It was hard on us. We had our son in our home for almost 1.5 years before it was an adoption. And during that 1.5 years, you are wondering, will I get to adopt? Will that child go back to their biological family? Will there be reunification? We had 2 amazing social workers, one at our agency and one through Family Protective Services. We had an incredible lawyer fighting for us. And so, but it wasn't easy. The fees that you have to pay are usually lawyer fees if you get to that point of adoption. You have to take care of the kid normally, just everyday needs that they have. In a lot of cases, you get paid for that child every month, depending on what needs they have and things like that. I want to be very honest. Just because it's free doesn't mean it's always the best situation for your family. Just because it doesn't take a lot of money doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to take that easy route. It's not easy. No adoption is easy. It is a child's life. And I've always said from the very, very beginning, and this is my motto and it will be for the rest of my life, every child deserves to be fought for. And children in foster care haven't been fought for sometimes. And so sometimes the adults have to come in and fight, and it is a hard fight sometimes. But every child deserves to be fought for, and that's what your focus needs to be. That child needs to have a good life in your home, doesn't need to know what's really going on. You need to protect that child, and you take the brunt, as any parent would for that child. And you go fight for them, and you fight for love. And that may be reunification. That may be the best thing for that family. It may be being adopted by your family. But there is a lot in foster care. So if you are thinking that sometime in the future, even if it's 10 years from now, that you want to adopt, and you're looking into foster care or private adoption or international adoption, just know the money can be scary in the other situations, but this is still hard, and it's still a fight, and it's still stressful, and it was hard. It was hard in our family. It was hard in our marriage. We did fine, but it's hard. You take the brunt for that kid, and you go to war for that kid. No matter what the end result is, you go to war. And you may want them to be reunified. You may want them to be adopted, but you're still their advocate, and you're working with people that sometimes aren't their advocate, and you have to be their advocate. So if you think foster care is right for you, I completely respect that. It was right for us at the time, and I'm so glad we did it. I learned so much from it. I made great friends. I have my beautiful, perfect son, and it was perfect for our story, but it's not perfect for everyone. So if you're even thinking about it, I would definitely encourage you to research, talk to people, talk to agencies, interview them, look at references to see how you feel about it. Maybe it's right now, maybe it's in a few years, maybe you're still young and you're thinking forward, and that is something that you want to find in a spouse. Mark and I truly see it as a mission to help people adopt and to be there and to be an example of what adoption can be, the struggles, the positives, and everything in between. And so feel free to leave us comments if you have any questions, and we can get in contact with you. It can be a hard journey, it can be a lonely journey, and so just know that we are praying for anyone who's adopting. We encourage anyone who's adopting, but you have to make sure it's right for your family, for that kid. The next video we're going to do is for international and where to get started on that. If you know you want to adopt and compare the two, the international video will go up in a few days. Once the international video is posted, I will put it in the description box below. Make sure you press this button right here to subscribe and give us a thumbs up if you like it. Thanks.